Hey everybody, Joe here from Snowflake Healing. I'm driving to West Virginia right now to help Pam out with a family matter, and I just thought I'd use the time to make a quick video for you guys here to talk for a minute about something that just kind of hit me over the head like a ton of bricks when I was reading the other day. Now, a lot of you know that I study Qabala, Hermeticism, and those kinds of things, like Western esoterics. It's kind of my jam, and it's my entry point into occult and metaphysics and all that. And I was reading about the Qabala. I'm reading right now a book called The Tree of Life by Israel Regardie. It's a great book, by the way. Tons of really great concepts. Not the easiest book to read because he writes the way that really smart people talked like 100 years ago. But still worth the read if you're into that kind of thing. But on the Tree of Life in the Qabala, there are 10 Sephira, right? And those are like the little balls on the Tree of Life, different colors, 1 through 10. And they each represent an emanation of the divine in the process of things going from just all being one to being all the separate manifestations that we see on the earthly plane. And there's a microcosm and a macrocosm to that. So, the whole saying, as above, so below. The macrocosm, the bigger version of that, is God or the divine or the universe or whatever you want to call it. But there's a smaller reflection of that in each of us. You can think of it as a tree of life in each of us. And of those 10 Sephira, I'm going to say the 4th through the 8th ones make up what's called the Ruach. And basically, that is the part of the soul that is considered to be the ego. So, if you break it all down, you've got your will, you've got your imagination, you've got your thoughts and your intellect, you've got your feelings, and all of that stuff. These are all aspects of ourselves in our earthly life that we can develop as we choose in life. And some people don't develop any of those much at all, and other people develop them to an insanely high degree. And the really interesting thing that hit me is the concept of having to make the ultimate sacrifice to eventually reintegrate with your higher self, with your source. And that sacrifice is the sacrifice of the ego. So basically, the part of you that you're used to thinking of as you, as the whole you, is only a rather small part of you. It was meant to be a vehicle with which to navigate this world, this earthly plane that we're kind of just dreaming and sleepwalking through as we're getting back to our source. And it tricked us into thinking that it was the whole thing. And most of spirituality is just doing things from that perspective to try and wake ourselves back up to the fact that we're so much more. And the only way to do that at the end of it all is to lay that ego on the altar of the higher self and sacrifice it. Not in like a weird, creepy way, but in a way that kind of trades that in for something more. It's kind of like with the human mind, you can't reason yourself, or you can't reason your way out of the human mind. You know what I mean? You cannot reason your way out of the human condition from the human condition. You have to do something more than that or beyond that. You have to be able to lay that aside in order to be the other stuff that you actually are, or you will be trapped in that smaller version of yourself indefinitely. So that to me means that it makes it almost harder, like when we develop ourselves intellectually, spiritually, like in all the different ways. The more we develop ourselves, it's almost the harder it is to give that ego up, because it's almost like you're giving up so much more. And at the end of the day, you're not, because you're not giving that part of yourself to something else. You're just giving it to the higher part of yourself for reintegration. And that kind of changes the way that we live in this world, in the sense that now, when you're learning a new skill or some kind of knowledge or expertise, or you're developing some aspect of yourself, you're not just doing it for you as you think of yourself typically. And you're not just doing it for your family or for your community or anything. I mean, you can do it for all those reasons, of course, but you're not just doing it for those reasons. Ultimately, everything that you do, every way that you develop yourself, you're also doing it for God, or for whatever your conception of that is. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that it makes it much easier to endure the suffering that it would sometimes take to develop yourself in certain ways. And I feel like it makes it that much easier with that knowledge to be able to give all that up in the end. And no matter how awesome you've made yourself, your avatar in this world, to be able to trade that in for something even better when the time comes. So I hope that made any sense to you guys. If you have any thoughts, please share them below, and I'll talk at you later.